Hey everybody, welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby. Of course, this show is for those small nonprofits doing great big things. We got a great show for you today because I found in my little world a brand new startup nonprofit that is poised to do incredibly big things. And I am ecstatic to have as a guest today, Theresa Garrett. She is the co-founder and director of strategic partnerships for Arisecommunities. Theresa, thank you for being on the official Do Good Better podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Patrick. This is very exciting. I'm excited to talk with you today.
I'm very excited to learn more about Arisecommunities, and I know that everybody else is. So if they're scrolling through their YouTube page and this comes up, or they're listening to this podcast on their favorite channels, and they see Arisecommunities, and they see Theresa Garrett, and they see your bright, shiny face, and they said, I'm interested in what she has to say, but I have no idea what this organization does. Give me the high-level 5,000-foot view on what Arisecommunities is.
Basically, we are a nonprofit that is trying to create diverse and equitable learning communities around technology.
It's about as concise of a declaration as I've heard in a very long time, and I love you for that. That's awesome. How did this get started, and where did this idea come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a transplant. I am a Fargo Moorhead transplant. I moved here almost 3 years ago. And when I moved here, I work in technology, and I've always wanted to start a nonprofit that focuses on women of color and minority groups, women in general, specifically women of color. And so while here, I met two other young women who also are in tech, and they're very interested in the same things that I am. We met and we just clicked, and we were like, well, why don't we start our own nonprofit? And I was like, really? And so we went on this year journey of in the trenches, setting the foundation for Arise, and now what you see today is Arisecommunities. So we're very excited. That's how we started. Just by chance, I met these other two young women, and the three of us formed Arisecommunities.
Where did the idea come from? When did you notice a gap in all of this as service? And again, based on our previous conversations, there's not probably a lot of women of color in the tech world. There's not a lot of women in the tech world regardless, right? Mm-hmm. But specifically women of color, there's probably even less. How did you begin to realize that this was a need that you had a mission to fill?
Yeah, well, after working in technology and realizing that and looking in positions that I wanted to be in, there was nobody that looked like me, that I could get mentorship from, that I can just ask questions to. I knew that there was a gap and that needed to be filled. And so I knew that training up more people to enter into the tech field. And everybody, when you say tech, most people think that it's coding or programming, but technology companies are companies, and they have an HR department, and they have a program management team, and they have sales as well. And so there's other areas of technology, more so than just programming, that we also focus on as well. And so that's when I saw that there was a need to train up more women and also marginalized people groups. So, the LGBTQAI family as well, and just people who don't even think that they fit into the space. And so that's why we decided to create Arisecommunities.
It's funny because I think in the tech industry, you're always looking for creative outside of the box thinking, and individuals who are not built in the mold of traditional tech employees would be ideal candidates for the tech industry to give perspectives that are way different and sort of outside of the box. That's why I think this is such a neat thing. Talk to me a little bit about the programming that you'll be developing at Arisecommunities. I think that's really some of the interesting pieces to this whole nonprofit puzzle where you're filling gaps. So talk to me a little bit about some of the programs.
Right. So we have realized that HTML, CSS, those are one of the classes that we want to focus on. We just did a UX UI class. We also want to offer for people who are just very brand new to technology, Microsoft Word and Office getting into that so that we can help them create a resume, so that we can help them budget when it comes to Excel and things like that. So those are the types of programming things. Security as well. We want to look at security. And so those are the programs and the areas that we're really looking to focus on. And it will be ever evolving and expanding as people take our classes and they give us more suggestions of things that we can look into. So we're very excited to have a evolving curriculum and programs that we're building out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, we like to, sort of begin conversations with our nonprofit friends that join us on the official Do Good Better podcast with those big, hairy, audacious goals. It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year organization, a 120-year organization, or a 1-year-old organization that's just starting up. What are some of those big, hairy, audacious goals that Arise Communities has that you'd like to discuss today?
Yeah, so the really great thing about myself and the other two co-founders is that we have what we call our buckets. And so I'm director of strategic partnerships. And so I'm responsible for ensuring that financially we survive and that Arise Communities will be here, not just for a 1-year thing, but will be here for the long term. So some big BHAGs, as I like to call them, are, I have a fundraising goal for this year. And so I would love to close the gap on our fundraising goal, and then also look forward to our next year's fundraising goal to ensure that we can sustain the programming that we want to do and really reach the people that we want to reach.
It's an attractive phrase of thinking forward and being sustainable. I think donors always are a little hairy on brand new startups if they don't have a game plan to kind of survive past the initial founders themselves. So I like that as a big, hairy, audacious goal. And especially from somebody who has not a lot of fundraising experience, would you like to? and that's the best part. I think your enthusiasm about this project is going to help you a really long way. So that's pretty awesome. There's a lot of tech startups. There's a lot of tech trainers. There's a lot of groups that try to help educate individuals who are looking to get into tech or trying to lift up others within the tech industry. What does Arise Communities do differently than other organizations or nonprofits that play in kind of the similar sandbox?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and thank you for asking that. One of the big things that I think that Arise, how we differentiate ourselves, is that we love our boot camps and other classes, but the population of people that we're trying to reach can't necessarily take off 12 to 16 weeks and be in the boot camp type classroom setting. And then the financial piece, the price tag of that is really expensive as well. Yeah. And so how we do things differently is that we offer a very focused class or learning for a very shorter period of time and a price point that anyone can get into. So we allow you to dip your toe into the area that you're interested in, but we also give it to you at a price point that you can manage.
Right. And then from there, is there a support system there that kind of allows you to sort of hold hands during that sort of weird transition period? Do I like this? Do I not? Do I have the skill set? And that kind of thing?
So that's where we're building out our community piece as well, is that we can have people that have taken the class or people who are in the area or in technology can join the community and kind of offer that mentor-mentee, can kind of talk about things. If they've, things on the internet and can offer help if they have a question and things like that. So that's where that after the classroom piece comes in.
Yeah, that's amazing. A lot of donors are always going to look for impact numbers. They're like, what am I actually funding? How do I know that my gifts are going to be directed towards something that's going to make a tangible impact? So what are you planning on, or what have you seen sort of in other programs such like this, or where you kind of have derived inspiration from? What are kind of the documented successes you're looking for as Arise Communities grows?
Yeah, so some of the things are that now there's a big focus on skills in the industry, is that you have a skill. So we want to give our students a tangible skill that they can use to then help them get to the next place in their career, or to help them kind of get into the door. Somebody will take a chance on them. So those are some of the markers. And then we also have a number. We want to have X amount of students to go through our programming and, you know, within the year as well. But the big thing is the skills that we want to give our students so that they can help them to change their trajectory, that they can kind of bust into the door in a bigger company, that they and change their trajectory.
That's awesome. One of the things that you'll find down the road as just a startup nonprofit is that nonprofits are traditionally very bad at celebrating wins.
Yes.
For some reason, it's just I know you're humble, and you're both hungry and humble at the same time. That's hard to navigate. I think of it as donors want to give to winning organizations and winning teams. And I think if we don't celebrate enough, that we don't necessarily appreciate why we do this in the first place. Yeah. So, Theresa, I'm giving you the challenge. Give me something, a win of sorts, whether big, small, and medium, anywhere in between, a win that we can celebrate with you today.
Yeah, so one huge win is that we recently received a grant so that we can actually fund a program that we are very excited about. We don't have an official name for the program yet. We kind of been floating some names, but we have the bones of the program, and so we're super excited about it. And then through that grant, we'll be able to offer some certifications for participants to actually go through the program that we got the grant for. So we are ecstatic about that.
Kudos to you.
Being a new nonprofit and getting a grant of that size, we are just like, okay, we're on to something here.
Well, there's your proof of concept. That's kind of the fun part about all this, is where you've got it. The first gift is always the hardest. So now that you got the first investment, I think people will really kind of track. And you know, sort of having a group of tech people as co-founders is really great, because you'll probably talk about analytics a lot more than most organizations anyway. So I like that. Yes, one of the things that we really like also doing on the official Do Good Better podcast is showing our appreciation to those who helped us get to where we are. We know that regardless of how long you've been a nonprofit, it took a lot of legs to get you from point A to point B. So are there some folks or organizations or groups that you'd love to share your appreciation to today?
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank my two co-founders, April Stevenson and Kirsten Henagin. Without them, Arise would not be here. And so they've been very instrumental, the three of us. The synergy that we have and how well we work together, it kind of scares us a little bit, because we work so well together. We complement each other, where one is not so good in an area, the other one is. So the two of them have been great. I also would love to thank our board as well, because without them, we couldn't have a nonprofit. We couldn't. So I'm so thankful to our board as well. They've been amazing. I also want to thank some people in the community that have really made connections for me as a transplant, not knowing the community, and then having people to make connections for me has been amazing. I want to thank the two co-founders at Lady Boss. They have been instrumental in helping to connect me as well. And now here's the other thing. You're going to laugh at me. I'm director of strategic partnerships. Yeah. And I'm horrible with names. I don't know how that works. I don't. So you see, I'm not naming all the names because I can't think of them.
We'll drop their names. We'll drop their names in the show notes. Yeah, here's a helpful hint. When you're bad at names, just bring somebody along who's really good at introducing themselves in front of you to remind you.
This is my challenge. This should be my impact goal for this year, is to remember names. So
figure out like a Dale Carnegie course to remember names. I think this is the next thing that you need to do. It's going to be great.
I mean, it's please look, and I'm from the South, so we have a saying, charge it to my head and not my heart. Okay.
There you go. It's perfect. And because you're from the South, people won't be mad if you call them like a cute nickname, like you refer to other people in the South, and then they won't mind you don't forget their name.
I do. I call everybody mama, and I call everybody baby, because I can't remember people's names.
That's perfect. Nobody will even know the difference unless they listen to this podcast and realize you have no idea who they are.
No, it's not that I don't know who they are.
Yes, or their names. Yeah, I know. I get it.
Yes. Sorry. Sidebar.
Speaking of appreciation, because you have been a delightful guest on this show, and we really like everything that you're doing here, I would like to show my gratitude by giving out any sort of fundraising advice that we possibly can to help you and Arise communities. So the floor is yours to ask any fundraising question, and I hope I can help out you, Theresa Garrett of Arise Communities. Let's go. Any question? What do you got?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is just the start, right? So, you know, I've looked at several resources that say write a list of all the names, and then from that list you say these are the yeses, these are the maybes, create an Excel spreadsheet. That just rumbles my feathers. So I just need like the start.
Do you like coffee?
I do.
And you just need to have coffee meetings with everybody else in the entire world. The best part about this, and not a lot of organizations can have this in their back pocket, is that the timing of your organization being sort of presented publicly, the idea of equity in tech, individuals of color, sort of the communities that are not involved in tech are front and center as part of this sort of nationwide eye-opening sort of that we're having. Like we're having this sort of reckoning internally, and your appearance on the nonprofit scene, it could not happen at a more convenient time. Not only, and not just from you, from businesses who are looking internally on how we can address some of these own things in our companies. So your advantage is being able to talk about the advantage of having women and women of color specifically within the tech industry, and how organizations and businesses can support this organization in order to support the snowball effect of positivity that this is going to include in their own business ventures. And I think the openness to businesses talking to you about that subject and them asking immediately how they can help will allow you an advantage that most organizations just don't have at this time. And I'm super excited for you about that. And you're in a prime position as somebody who's been in tech for how many years?
Almost 10.
Yeah. So you've got a decade of experience and perspective that a lot of businesses don't have 6 weeks worth of perspective. And I think the real first step is to look around in this particular community or communities in the Midwest, for example, and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about an idea we have. We know that you are in tech. We love your perspective on how we can spread our message. And at the same time, I'd love to help facilitate a conversation about why this is an advantage on not only supporting Arise communities, but actually this whole topic of equity of women and women of color specifically in the tech industry, and how this can change the landscape for the better. I don't think there's a lot of businesses who would shut the door or hang up the phone to that opportunity to have that conversation internally, especially now. Yeah. And I think this is what, timing is everything, and opportunity is everything. And I think you're really positioned well to have that. Now, once you're in, now it's just talking about the advantage of the programming.
Yeah.
Why this means something to you, and why that means something to the company, and what their support could mean for the community as a whole. But not only that, what advantages do these companies and organizations need to embrace this, and what diversity means and perspectives can be brought to a company that might not have it. It's a sub bonus to supporting your organization to sort of launch this off the ground. But these organizations can be on the forefront of a conversation that's just being hatched right now and they get to be a part of it. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity you're giving them. They're giving you an opportunity to kind of sell it at ground level. And from there, they're going to ask how I can help. So your challenge is better have an answer for that when they come next and say, well, how can I help? And then your list of things that you need in order to be abundantly successful needs to be laid out. $10,000 is going to get us this.
Yeah.
$50,000 is going to be able to do this. $130 is going to be allow us to do this. Is there a number on this in this chart that looks like something you'd like to help support? How can we work together? And that's fundraising. People always think that fundraising is cornering somebody in the room and they're like, how can I get you to give me some money in my pocket now? Right? This old used car salesman bit. Yeah. It's not. It's an invitation to having them feel good about what they're about to do in check form. And I think
I like that a lot. I'm going to steal. Well, I'm not going to.
Wait, hey, it's your podcast. You get this is your advice. Your thing. Steal away. And I think you're in a perfect position. I really do. You're great from a personality standpoint. Wonderful to make a cold call, to make a warm conversation at the end of it. Perfect. And I think the conversation itself is important. The results that you can have are even better.
You are not going to believe this, maybe, but I get so nervous when I talk to people.
Stop.
I do. I have to have like talking points. I get nervous. I say random things. I
don't think you've had a talking point yet when this conversation. It's beautiful because you spoke enthusiastically from what you wanted to do in the first place. So that's the type of conversation that you want to have with potential donors, is that this isn't you don't have to get everything right. Okay. You're new. And you're going to be given grace because of how new the topic is and how new the subject is. Nobody will care. What they do care about is if you don't come in walking like a dead fish going, I wish I could have some. No. Nobody wants that. They want solutions to their answers. They're just as confused to navigate some of these waters as well. And you're there to help them along. You're the life preserver for conversation for them as well. So you're going to be great. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be perfect. And I can't wait to watch your journey because it's going to be awesome.
Well, you see, I'm taking notes because this is a real thing. I need to ensure that I capture everything. So
there is nothing bad about watching yourself back on a podcast. There's nothing negative about that. That's just learning. Theresa, you've been awesome. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and yet we have come up to the end of our show. But before we do, there's a lot of people probably listening that have a boatload of money they want to give to you now because they've bought into what you're doing. They love this idea, but they don't know how to give you cash. They don't know how to give you money. They don't know how to give you support. They don't know how to open doors. So Theresa, how can our listening audience give you the support you need? How do they get a hold of you? And go.
Yeah, so info@arisecommunities.com is an amazing way to email the leadership team, and would love to connect with people in the community. And just like Patrick said, and just have coffee. We can do it virtually. We can meet in person if that's something that you would like to do. So I can just let you know more about our story and more about our strategic planning and our programming that's going to be coming up that we really want to lay down for next year. arisecommunities.com is our website. That's another great place to learn more about us, see some of the things that we are passionate about. And also you get to see our faces and read a little bit more about us and learn more about us as well.
As always, we will have all that information in the show notes. So do yourself a favor and finish this podcast and go click away and sign up for newsletters and email Theresa and her friends because you're going to want to learn more. I guarantee it. Theresa, thank you so much for being a guest on the official Do Good Better podcast. You're awesome, and I appreciate it. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you next time on the official Do Good Better podcast.